Form 300, or the Buyer's Representation Agreement, is between the brokerage and the buyers themselves. The form will indicate the name of the brokerage, the address and the contact information, and also the address of the buyers. It will detail the amount of time when it starts, the amount of time that we'll be working together, and it will also give an end date. There will be a part where the buyer has to initial indicating that they are not working with any other brokerage. After that, you're going to see a part where it indicates where the buyer is looking for a home. Now, we are licensed to deal in Ontario. For myself, I tend to stick to Renfrew County, where I belong to the board. So usually it will say Renfrew County, and it will also say what kind of property you're looking for, whether it be residential, farm, commercial, etc. The form also talks about commission. Now, commission is normally paid by the seller. On the second page, it talks about how much commission is paid to the brokerage. Once again, unless the buyer breaks the contract, it's paid by the seller in the transaction. You will see a paragraph towards the bottom of page 2 that talks about the referral of properties. And what that is that if the buyer sees a property that they would like to see, whether it be a for sale by owner property or a property that's listed with another brokerage, they, in signing the contract, are agreeing to refer that address, that property, to their realtor to have them arrange the appointment. In doing so, the realtor will also ensure that the commission is going to be paid for by the seller. And if not, at that time, the realtor, or I in this case, would indicate how much commission would need to be paid by the buyer. So the form also talks about representation. It talks about the differences between customer service and representation. This is a representation agreement. So in signing this form, you're agreeing to have the brokerage represent you, and you will be entitled to fiduciary duties. Those would include confidentiality, loyalty, and due diligence. It also talks about what happens if we enter into a multiple representation situation, also known as dual agency. In that case, normally what's happening is the brokerage is representing both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction. In these instances, the brokerage is not allowed to indicate to the buyer the bottom dollar that the seller has in mind, and not able to indicate to the seller the top dollar that the buyer is willing to pay. We cannot discuss the personal information of either party, including motivation. And we cannot disclose the information of any competing offer to the buyer to give that buyer an unfair advantage if we're in multiple offers. On the third page of this document, it talks about things like indemnification. So we are trained in dealing in real estate transactions, we liaise them, but realtors are not home inspectors, they're not environmental specialists, they're not tax advisors, and they're not lawyers. So if you need specific advice, we are going to refer you to the subject matter expert who can answer those questions. It also talks about finder's fees. So once in a while, you may be a client that has been referred to us by another brokerage in another area. In an instance like that, we would pay a referral fee to that brokerage. Usually we don't have finder's fees for other professionals such as lawyers or mortgage brokers or home inspectors, but if we did, we would have to disclose them. So it also talks about on page 3 the use and distribution of your information. So by signing the contract, you're giving us the authority to distribute your information as we need to make this transaction work. Of course, we're not sending your information where it doesn't need to go, but we will need to send your contact information and a copy of the agreement to the lawyer once the deal is firm. And in some cases before that, we may have to send the agreement and a copy of the listing to your financial representative if we are helping you in that regard to get your mortgage approval. If there's a conflict or discrepancy in any schedule that's added to this agreement with the pre-printed clauses, the schedule will always supersede this agreement. And there's also a portion on here where you consent to electronic communication and electronic signatures, because that's the way we do business in this day and age. After that, there's going to be a part where your realtor, in this case me, signs and endeavors to represent you to locate the real property that suits your needs and to help you place an offer and get an accepted offer in terms that are acceptable to you. After that, the buyer signs saying that they've read and understood this agreement and that they're signing under seal. So it's a legal binding document. And the next portion talks about the realtor's declaration of insurance. So as a realtor, under the Real Estate Business Brokers Act of 2002 in Ontario, we are required to carry errors and omissions insurance so that if we do not put something that needs to be in that offer, or if we make a mistake, that we have insurance that will cover us. And also at the end, there's an acknowledgement that you have a copy of this document. Once you sign it, you will receive a copy immediately. And that's it for the Form 300 Buyer Representation Agreement.